Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a paid advertising. TheOnlyGround.com, the THE onlyground.com is one of the most amazing places for information that I consistently go to. If you guys want to have conversations about our old interviews or even topics that we don't discuss, the group of people that are on the onlyground.com message boards are some of the most brilliant that I have ever come across. Those little like knick-knack facts that we get here and there, that's where a lot of it comes from. Please check out the link in the bio.
Welcome to the show. I am MMA insider and Herb Dean's dog sitter, Joey Venti, and you're listening to the MMA History Podcast, the only podcast dedicated 100% to the preservation of mixed martial arts history. Interviews and stories about the early days of MMA direct from the men who lived it. Hundreds of interviews, thousands of hours of research, all conducted by the most obsessed mind in the business, the MMA detective Mike Davis. Join us as we document the history of the sport we all love. Welcome back to the MMA History Podcast. I am Joey Venti. I'm here with the MMA detective Mike Davis. We have a special episode today. Our guest today is a true pioneer of the bantamweight division, a former WEC and UFC fan favorite, Antonio Banuelos. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Antonio, your roots, like we always like to start from the beginning.
Okay.
You come from wrestling.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So you wrestled at Clovis High School.
Clovis West. There's
Clovis West.
There's a bunch of high schools there now, but Clovis West. Yeah, I graduated out of there.
All right. So California was like a legit hotbed for mixed martial arts while you were coming up.
Yeah.
Any of the guys that you were going up against ever make it big, or the people that you would cross paths with?
That's a tough question to think about it. There was a lot of fighters from the Central Valley or that had fights in the Central Valley that made it. I mean, it's been so long that when you think about it, I mean, Chuck had one of his first fights or one of his first earlier fights. I can't remember if it was the IFC or WC out at Table Mountain, So, but like everybody had their did their bones out there, you know what it's called? Because they had it was the IFC. I think it like the original IFC, and then the WEC was out there and a couple other small shows. But yeah, I mean, a lot of wrestlers came out of there. It's hard for me to think of other names now.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. So then you went to wrestle at Cal Poly.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So your Wikipedia says that you kind of left that program. I don't know. You had a falling out with the coach.
Yeah. I was a young guy. I was young guy, cocky. When you're young, you think you know everything. And I thought I could go back to Fresno State and wrestle. And when I transferred back, my units didn't carry over, so I had to do time at the junior college. And then at that time, I was kind of really young. Yeah, like I said, I thought I knew everything, and then I just ended up not wrestling and kind of fell into a bad place. And stopped wrestling and didn't have really a path. And luckily, a couple of my old wrestling buddies were still in San Luis Obispo, and they actually started training. It was Jake Shields and this guy named Bo Taylor.
Dude, that's the one. Well, hold up. That's the one-man army.
Oh my gosh, one man army. Yeah,
you give him some respect. You put some respect on that name. Okay, dude?
I actually lived with Bo my second year at Poly. And
wait, hold up. Let me sit stable. Joey, he's the Midwest champion of the world.
He's right up your alley then. Midwest champion.
I can't believe you know one man Marty Bo, but yeah.
He's the MMA detective. Of course he knows that.
Nice.
But yeah, him and Jake Shields, they wrestled together. They were my buddies. And like I said, I lived with Bo. I met Jake through Bo, but they were all training with Chuck and on some hard times. And I came up to hang out for a weekend, and they talked me into staying, and they just kind of saw that I was stuck in a rut, and they were training at Chuck's gym. So they kind of just would drag me in and work out with them. And, and one thing led to another. I met all the guys at the gym. I met Chuck. They kind of open arms. I was kind of there originally to help all the other fighters with their wrestling, and so
they suckered you in. That's how they suckered
me in. So I'd go in there these guys would choke me or I get hit, because they were all training for fights, and I kind of just competitive, like trying to learn, and then next thing you know, Chuck and Scott Adams were like, "Hey, you ever think about fighting?" I'm like, "Well, sure." And a couple months later, I had my first fight, and it was a go from there. But they actually kind of that saved me because, like I said, I had a rough patch. I was a young kid and thought I knew the world, and I really blew at wrestling. I had a falling out with the coach. It was predominantly my fault, and
So you mentioned a fallout with the coach. It was John Azevedo, right?
No, actually, it was Linus Cowles before Azevedo. I was gone before Azevedo went. But I knew who Azevedo was. Yeah, but that wasn't my time. I was a little bit before him. So
yeah,
but
it was,
and Mike.
Yeah.
Well, I know you. I know you went to a fundraiser on May 22nd, 2010 to help save that wrestling program. So it's like, when I see falling out with the coach and then years later, sometimes people make amends and it's pretty cool.
Technically, I didn't really go. I went because they wanted Chuck there. So I went just because of that. Well, technically I went, but they wanted Chuck there and I was Chuck's guy. So it was like that. And by that time I had already, like I said, I had already learned, swallowed, not swallowed my pride, but I knew, like I said, it was a lot. Most of it was my fault. I thought, I was cockier than, I said, you're 18 years old. You think you know everything. You're like, I'll just go to this. I'll go back here and this and that, and you're just young and think you run the world.
Yeah, but that's a life lesson. Very important to go through.
But like I said, it led me back to San Luis Obispo. It led me to fighting. So, yeah. So, like I said, it. Yeah.
So Bo Taylor, Jake Shields, and yourself, you guys are hanging out in college.
Oh, dude. Oh, my God. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy times.
I had heard you guys got into more than one street fight.
Yeah. There's, like I said, it was wild times pre cell phone and stuff like that. So you could, and
statute of limitations are up, so you can speak freely.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Here, let me be direct. Let me be direct. Did you guys beat up some skinheads?
A few times. We were in the punk rock scene, so like it was just like if you were there and confrontational, you got a bunch of young guys and we knew how to fight. But also I was from the Central Valley too, so it's like technically everybody kind of in the valley not knows how to fight, but I mean it's like you just I don't know, you're ready for action. But there was a few times we got into it with I guess Nazis.
That's that's like actual Nazis. Like because they didn't like you because of the color of your skin. But I mean, I always say we weren't out like you got us like I guess we were a-holes, but we weren't like looking Nazi
for trouble.
You were Nazi a-holes.
No, we weren't. No, we weren't. But we were. I guess
just regular a-holes.
We were just hockey a-holes. You got three guys that used to wrestle and they started fighting, and then you mix booze and girls and everything. Yeah. So, but I don't think we would start fights, but we weren't afraid to shy away from them. I guess.
Lean.
Yeah. Like, okay, what you're gonna do? What? And also, you got to remember, I'm 5'4" on a good day if I spike my hair up. So. It takes if somebody says something to me, I wouldn't be like, all right, whatever, but who's gonna take
no. Listen, you're in the punk rock scene. You're gonna lean into that. It is what it is. Now we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure this out. Yeah.
That's literally. Yeah, if you got a problem with me and my friends, we can sort it out right now. Just do it like the Rancid song. Just don't do any damage to me and my crew, or actually it's Off Ivy song. You know what I mean? Like. Just don't bother me and my crew, and there won't be a problem.
If a Nazi's going to give you an excuse, you should probably take that opportunity.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
I can't blame him. It's weird that although you're talking about fighting Nazis, Jake Shield is now being called a Nazi.
Right. Yeah, you heard it here first. Jake Shield does not like Nazis.
Yeah, it's weird.
Right? Yeah.
Breaking news.
He's doing like the free speech stuff that
he is.
So. Yeah, it's
but
nowadays it's crazy. So like I always want to stay away from that. Like I said, back in the day.
100%.
But the guys that we did fight, they had swastikas and they didn't like us. I guess predominantly, if well, Bo and Jake, they probably didn't like me because I was a little bit darker.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if I was Shields, I wouldn't get a tan. You know what I mean? Like it's
right, yeah.
with an SPV. Yeah, that's
but that was a long. Yeah, that's. I mean, we're 19. We're all 19 years old, 20.
All right, so you end up over at Slow. Who were like the major players over there at that time?
So at that time, John had his own gym in Arroyo Grande, the pit, the original pit. It's still, still there. And then Chuck had his gym here. It was Slow Kickboxing. It was called Slow Kickboxing. So Chuck and Scott Adams owned that, and so a lot of the guys were fighting at a Slow Kickboxing, and Chuck was fighting out of there, but he was still getting coached by Hacklemen. So it was like a split. And then once Chuck got the momentum and his career started taking off, he had a hard time juggling it. So then John just took over the fight team. So then we just combined the gyms, and then Slow Kickboxing finished, and then we had the pit here in San Luis Obispo.
You guys just kind of combined.
Just combined.
I have heard that Scott Adams is a master at leg locks.
It's crazy. Yep. He was doing leg locks. Now everybody does it. It's insane how good he probably still is at leg locks. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was like how everybody does leg locks now, right? You watch all the grappling matches. Yeah, I think he had fought 3 times, and they all were in the first round.
He did a duel match against the Submission Factory. Scott Adams beat our best guy quickly, gave him a second chance. They actually fought a second time. He leg locked him again. It was incredible.
Yeah. He could just fall back and get you in any position. It was great. And again, like I said, that was years ago before
pre Dean Lister making it cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, literally, yeah. And you would go and everybody at the gym would do it. And if you traveled to other gyms, and work, and you hit a leg lock, they get mad at you. Sorry, I can't remember.
They call it garbage. Yeah, we're
mad,
good,
right? They get mad at you. So, but this was back then, and then everybody got good at it. So everybody had that leg lock game and stuff like that. So, and then it evolved from there. But I remember everybody on the team was not afraid to roll leg locks. So. Yeah.
Dean Lister, he literally made it cool. It was garbage. Yeah. Oh, you're doing that garbage jiu-jitsu. Oh,
he said, well, why would you're only taking 50% of the body, which it makes sense, when the sport evolves now, so yeah.
Okay, so Scott Adams, you, Chuck Lidell, OMA, is Eric Schwartz. Do you remember rolling with him?
Schwartz, those guys were all giant, you know what I mean? So I was like I was the guy that threw. The team was big and I was small, you know what I mean? And when I first started, I think the closest guys I had were 55ers. So I was like the small guy on the team. So I would roll there. But yeah, Schwartz still around. He still does personals at my gym. I saw him today. I was hanging out with Schwartz today.
That Eric Schwartz has got to went over Glover Teixeira in Teixeira's first fight.
That's how we got Glover. Because after he beat Glover, Hack went over there to talk to him. He's like, hey, we need a jiu-jitsu guy. And then they started rapping it, and it made it happen. And the next thing you know, Glover, Chuck's like, it was one of his first, was it the Vitor fight? No, it was after the Vitor fight. I forget who he was fighting, but he's like, he had just bought his house, and we'd all moved in there. Or I had moved in there with Chuck and his brother Dan. And we were getting ready, and he was having a couple other guys come train. I can't forget who to, but he's like, hey, you got to go get two more mattress or another mattress, because we had all the mattresses in the living room. And he was like, that guy Glover, Eric's fighting, because we knew his credentials. He was like, he had won a bunch of stuff. We knew all how good he was. We're like, yeah. So then Glover came in, and then from there, he was around.
Wait, so shall we think about this house? You got both Liddells. You got Chuck and Dave. You got Banuelos.
Yeah.
Is it Dan? Okay, Dan.
Dan,
You got Banuelos. And Glover Teixeira moves in.
Yeah. You don't want to start shit at the house party.
It's crazy, right? Yeah, it's absurd, right? Yeah. And then, one year we had Mark Weir there. So we were just a house of fighters. Like, you name it. Chuck would have just guys come in, they stay with us. It's pretty awesome. And this is it was the fun time of MMA, you know what I mean? All these smaller shows were going around. It Yeah.
Can you imagine any like neighborly disputes?
Oh, yeah, we got well, not disputes, but they would kindly ask
Like,
us to come over and be like, "You guys are a little bit too loud." Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
got
turn
the
your volume
cops.
down. Turn the
Yeah, I got
volume
the
down.
cops called on me during uh it was Jake's fight with Dan, and Dan, we knew Dan too,
Are you talking about Dan Henderson?
Dan
Henderson.
Henderson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was screaming at the TV. Me and my brother were screaming at the TV so loud. They said we were having a house party. And then after the fight, we hear the door knock, and it was like said Chuck's house. He was out of town. I opened up, and they're like, "Hey, are you guys having a party?" And I'm like, they're like, because they'd always come and check on us because we'd always party there. And I'm like, no, we were just watching fights. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm like, well, it's over. And like, yeah, they thought you guys were having a party and people were fighting. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I was screaming at the TV, like,
Yeah.
uh, uh,
Did they rat the neighbor out? Yeah, the neighbor over there is the one that
no,
called.
no, but
You always got to ask. No, you always
they
got to
always,
ask.
after pretty
You
much,
got
if
to
you
ask.
think about it, after one of our fights, we were gonna have a party and they were gonna call, so they were gonna.
Okay. I've seen Jake fight Ray Cooper Senior, that fight. Were
Yeah.
you in it? Were you in his corner for that? It was in Hawaii.
Break in Hawaii. No, I didn't get to go out to that one. No, I did not get to go out to that one. But he was in a bunch of my corners. What?
Yeah.
Maybe. Wait, no, I might have been out. Maybe me and Hack were out there.
Hack was
No,
for sure there. Hack was
yeah,
for
well,
sure
if Hack was there, actually, I think I was right.
Okay.
Yes,
You don't
maybe.
remember it, huh?
I have to remember. Like, yeah, yeah, I think so. Ray Cooper.
What happened to Jay that like it was like what I mean, he lost to both father and son, which for dude, Jake Shields
He
is
fought
a
everybody.
stupid, he's a
Stud.
savage, like an
Yeah,
absolute
he's so
savage.
hard on top. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he
But
fought GSP, you name it. He was all over the place. Yeah.
and like that Ray Cooper loss to me is like, was he sick? Was he
Oh, I'd have to
cutting weight?
rewatch it again. It's my brain's so clogged with fights, and so now I have fighters now. I've watched so much. I watch so many fights now, and it's
Why don't we plug what you're doing?
yeah,
We should have done that right away.
yeah.
Go
All right,
ahead.
so, yeah. Well, I'm a coach now, so I have one fighter. I have Cody Gibson in the UFC, and then I have a lot of guys working their way up. My amateur team, I got a big amateur team. I have two pros and about two other guys that are thinking about going pro, and a bunch of amateur guys that are about to make their debut. So, yeah, but coaching keeps me in it, and still running my gym, which is John's system, the Hawaiian Kimpo. Of the
And
pit,
the name of your gym.
It's Pit Fit in San Luis Obispo, or the Pit in San Luis Obispo, Pit San Luis Obispo. So Pit Fit. Yeah, I'm the coach there, but we're more of a martial arts school. I don't make my money off of fighters. It's more of, regular people that want to come in and, do something different and,
Get in shape.
To get in shape. I teach self-defense. We have a grappling class. We have a Hawaiian Kimpo class, which is everything MMA. And then we just have a fitness kickboxing class, but it's not like Taibo. I show them real punches, real this and that. It's just a high intensity cardio class, where I'm running around. And I'm not really running around, but I'm just throwing combos and burpees to punches, things like that. So yeah.
What about Jason Von Flew?
Von Flew is in the Valley now, and he's kind of doing all over the place. But two amateur fights, I went, and he was doing the mic, hosting that. So yeah, he's another guy that came out of here.
Yeah. So how does he connect with you guys? I got a ton of respect for him.
He was one of the original guys at Slow Kickboxing. There's just a big group of guys like that. He was there
from the beginning.
From the beginning, he was there before me. So
he was there in '99 at least.
I mean,
yeah. So he was there before me. So,
but he got his opportunity after you.
Yeah, he was on the show after that. Yeah, a while. Yeah, he got on one of the Ultimate Fighters, right?
Yeah,
like 2009.
Yeah. So that was after. So we were all still adult training. So yeah, he was still around. Yeah, it was just, in the beginning there was a big group. There was Chuck had 10 guys and a bunch of guys on the fight team, and then he was just on the for slow kick as a fight team, and then the jiu-jitsu class, and then like a fitness kickboxing class, and that was it. So but I mean their fight team was pretty big when I first got there.
Yeah, and Tim Kennedy even swung over there eventually.
Yeah, he came over. Tim trained with us a bunch. So, and it was all big guys.
Yeah.
It was all big guys. Like I said, I used to I threw the scale off, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah,
right?
you know what I mean? I mean, you just had to be a little bit more scrappy than everybody else. That's all that means.
Yeah.
In 2012, Tachi Palace, you cornered Casey Olson versus Cody Gibson.
Yeah. Oh, that's another guy that came out of the Valley Wrestling. Yeah. And now I'm Cody's coach. Pretty crazy, right?
It's
Casey Olson went to Clovis High, and we knew each other from wrestling. And then I met him when I went over to Fresno City, and we became friends. And then when he got out after Fresno State, he started fighting. He was my guy. So yeah, and then it just rolled from there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like what took place with Teixeira and Schwartz. You got Casey Olson, Cody Gibson, who you're now coaching in the UFC.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And Olson finished his career 14-4, and he never made a UFC debut.
Yeah, we just always kind of close, always there, but just and it was because he was 45s for a bit, and he dropped to 35s at the end of his career. It was like right there, and we kind of just missed that window. That's another one, and another tough guy.
Yeah, no, for sure, especially 14-4. Like,
he went on. He had a win streak, and then I think his last, maybe his. I mean, it's been a long time, but like I think maybe the last two guys that beat him, did they go to the UFC? I know one of them did. Yeah. So it was like we were right there. He was right there. It was we caught it. We caught it at the tail end. You know what I mean? And then I was 35s, and then they opened 25s up later on. I should have been a 25 my whole career, but they didn't have it, so I just went 35s.
Yeah, no, it didn't exist. I even went 45 in the beginning.
Yeah. So just it is what it is. So what are you gonna do?
You also had a kind of like a superstition where you would get a tattoo after every fight, win or lose.
Yeah, win or lose. That's the only. Well, technically, that's the only time I had money. So, so that's the only time I could get tattooed. And then, so I got a few of them from that.
What started that? Was it just having money in your pocket?
Well, I always wanted to get tatted, and that's at the time I wanted to get tattooed, and you're training, you can't do it, you can't get tatted and work out, so it just worked out where they would give us a week off, after our fights. So, and then I, like I said, a little like punk rock kid. I got a bunch of money. What am I gonna do? Go to shows and get tattooed, and then go back to training. So it'd give me time for my tattoo to heal up a little bit and then get back to training.
That's badass.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Talk about meeting John Hackleman the first time. It appears to me like John really doesn't have a team. He has a family.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean?
Like the small team. Yeah.
First time I met him, it's not a good enough name for it, like the bond that you guys have.
I like the Hawaiians, but first time I met him was the first time I met him. Scott had him do a seminar, and I was getting ready for I think my first fight or my second fight, and he's like, "Hey, John's doing this. Chuck's coach is doing a seminar," and I'm like, "Well, I don't got any money. Like, I can't afford it." And he's like, "Don't worry about it. Take care of it. Just show up." And it was just a striking seminar, and like you hear stories about him, and you hear Schwartz and Chuck tell stories about how they used to go up on the hill and just pretty much just fist fight each other in a boxing ring, and then you go to his, you go in, you walk in, and at the time John was big, he's tatted, beard, quiet, not quiet, but just like an intimidating force, and I'm there for a seminar. Yeah, that's how I met him. I just remember like, oh man. okay, here we go. So
What were those sparring sessions like between Glover and Chuck?
dude, some of the
Would
craziest things you've
would they
ever
take
like.
it easy or would they just foot on the gas?
For a while there, everybody was going at it. Yeah, like I always John and I would always where we still do argue about it, but I'm like, because John now, he's a little bit older and he, doesn't let the guys spar as much and things like that. But I'm like, John, you'd let us, you know, he would say go, and we would think it was a 5 minute round and be like a 15-minute round of everybody just going at it, going at it. But yeah, I mean, you got to think you'd have Chuck in there, Glover, Schwartz, especially when Chuck was training, and then they pulled guys like Scott Lighty, who was in the K1, he
Oh
was in,
wow.
yeah, a bunch of the K1s, um, just all these big guys just going at it, and then us, getting other guys to come train. So it would just like, and like you said, Tim Kenny would come in. So then you'd have all these guys in the cage and then just doing rounds. And I was at the time, once there was like we'd cut it off from like 160 low, So the big guys would go first and then the little guys would go after that. So I'd just be on the side, like warming up, like just watching these guys gun on each other. So it's cool. Like some of the best fights I've seen.
Yeah, dude, I'd stop training and I'd take a seat. I mean, this is you're talking about over 100 grand in fight purse to watch
Right?
that,
Yeah,
normally.
it was fun. Yeah, and then especially when Chuck built the cage in the gym, it was just like it was full go, just awesome, And then it was still like the time when people would come in and want to be fighters, and
Okay.
John would be like, "Yeah, cool, sign the waiver, go with these guys," and it's just like, "Oh my god, this guy's gonna get like Street Fighter this, Street Fighter that," and you just watch somebody get smoked.
Yeah,
So,
greenlit. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that was like, that was like the one thing I learned. I mean, like I was promoting pretty early in the early 2000s. And I would just say, man, like when you lie about your resume,
Yeah,
you
somebody's
should
gonna
like,
expose you at a certain point, right?
well, you're going to get fed like the biggest shark in the pond and
Yeah,
you're going to look dumb. But, you should lie down, not up.
yeah,
And and everybody used to lie like up, just like,
and then you
wow.
get in there with somebody good, and just and something's gonna get you at one point, right? How many gyms you gonna walk into, and then somebody's gonna get you. So, uh, just sit back and like, all right, it's gonna watch this happen.
Yeah, you erase things from your resume. You don't
Yeah,
add to them
yeah,
when you go into a gym that you don't know anybody in. You know what I mean?
exactly, right? Yeah,
Little humility. Um, so you start your career at 145 pounds, June 15, 2001, the IFC 13, Daniel Garlets.
I believe it was 35s, and then
Was
my
that 35s? I know you went up to
35s, but
45 for
I
a
went to
minute.
45s when I went to Hawaii, and that was just
Okay.
because we took it on. We were like, all right, that's the only way that they would take it. And I did that once, and I was like, all right, we're not doing that anymore because there's was it Bozo? Was his name? I forget. It was, yeah, was it his nickname something
We'll
like
get
that?
there. We'll get there.
But my first fight was at 35s.
So Daniel Garlets.
Yeah.
How long have you been training prior to your first walk?
Oh, my first walk. 3 or like anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I was still pretty green, but they, like I said, Scott and Chuck were like, "Hey, you should think about taking a fight," and then it's $500, and I was like, "Hey, we got to fight," a couple like when he asked me in a couple of weeks for this $500, and I was like, "Sold. I need money. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go."
To do
All right,
what?
cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then I really remember too. I was like, dude, like, because it was like the weight cut process is always the same. You know what I mean? This and that. One of my buddies drove me up, and Chuck couldn't make it, and Scott met me there on Saturday or whatever day, the fight day. But I had one of my buddies one of my buddies, Dave Z. He went to like almost all my fights, but I think I didn't have a car at the time. He had to drive me up, and I cut weight. I was like cutting weight in the car, and I got there, and I remember we get there, and I was sleeping on his couch. Didn't have, I was broke. And they gave us meal vouchers, and I'm like, dude, I'm buying dinner. Like they give us meal vouchers at the place, like good to go. But then fight day, everything's it's like still like wrestling. I'm like, oh, we're good to go, we're good to go. And then warming up, we're good to go. And then they shut the cage door, and I'm like, holy fuck, this is real. I'm about to fight somebody in a cage. So yeah, I just remember my heart rate just jumped. I'm like, oh well, they shut the door, so now it's time to do something. So yeah.
Yeah, that wrestling, I don't think people understand like the mental edge you get when prior to going into a fight as
Yeah.
compared with wrestling as compared to somebody that's never had that experience.
Yeah, yeah. Wrestling's it's up there. I love MMA and I love wrestling. So I don't want to say one's a better sport because they both have helped me out so much. But yeah, it definitely got me ready.
That reacting, it's that reacting under pressure.
Yeah, just in relying on yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just I'd always that was wrestling was my thing, and I'd never from a young age I always wrestled, and I just like. I understood other sports and stuff like that, but I always like, well, I just want to count on myself, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's like I got nobody else to blame except for me. If I gassed, my fault. I gassed, not because isn't that So yeah.
Well, you didn't like take any time off. So it's IFC 13. That's June 15, 2001. July 18, 2001. IFC 14.
Yeah, it's addicting, man. Fighting's addicting. I wanted to go once you got the bug, especially because I won too. So it might have been different if I got beat up and choked out, right? But I won, and they gave me money, and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go again.
Yeah, you got real successful BJJ YouTuber Brian Peterson.
Oh yeah, I just saw him a couple months ago at an amateur fight. He had a guy. It was just like a meeting up. Yeah. I'm like, hey, what's up? So
his YouTube channel is wildly popular.
Really? That's awesome. Good for
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That was in Fresno. Yep. At Table Mountain.
Yeah. So you're at 13 and 14. And that's Scott Adams' organization.
What? The
IFC?
At the time, I don't think
No.
so.
It was WEC, wasn't it?
WEC was Scott Adams.
Yeah,
WEC was a real. Oh yeah.
Wait,
IFC was something else. Yeah, I forget who it was, but yeah, that was pre. Yeah.
But they did some good shows.
Yeah, they did a bunch of shows, and they did a bunch of shows out there. Like I said, I think.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Let me interject real quick. There's a listener named Crowbar that used to drive that cage around and set it up and tear it down, who has told me the owner's names at least 50 times. Right now, he's yelling at our YouTube video.
Oh,
so go ahead. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. But yeah, they had a bunch of good fights out there. I mean, yeah, you name it. If they're from California and they probably fought on that show.
Yeah.
I mean, especially at the beginning of MMA in California, you name it, they probably fought on that show.
Yeah, I mean, they were throwing money around. Like they threw like legit money around.
Yeah, they had everybody, and like I said, I'm pretty sure Chuck fought on one of their shows too, because I remember driving out there and watching them fight.
You know what? I know. Wait, hold up. I know who can answer that. Hold up. Wait, coming in right now. Second, you got to turn on your camera, buddy. This guy right here, John Hackleman. Did Chuck Lidell fight on an IFC?
He did.
Yeah, I think it once. Wasn't it the head kick knockout? A guy named...
Yeah, he's the guy. He kicked the guy in the face. Yeah.
Is this a gay podcast?
Yeah, this is
yes,
this is a grinder.
The first thing. That's the first thing you come up with, Hack, right off the bat.
Every time he's on.
Yeah.
We're just talking about how tough Antonio is fighting those feelings and being so successful at it. It's weird how you just joined the conversation.
Nothing more than feeling.
Awkward.
No, anyways, you know what we always say at the pit? We always say it's better to have a tough gay guy than a wimpy straight guy.
That's true, right?
That's good.
Are we good? It sounds
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's
seems
good.
like
That's good.
Keep hopping in and
somebody's
out. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So you're now think about this. Like
can you hear?
yeah, you're good, John. You're good. We're talking about the start of his career, June 15th, July 18th, and then August 25th. You're not saying no to a fight. You're at Warriors Quest 2.
Yeah. Like I said, it was addicting. I was good at it. I missed wrestling, and since like I said earlier, since I botched wrestling, and I found another thing that I was into, and I was good at it, and so you got a tiger by the tail. You just keep going it, right?
At Warriors Quest 1, you and Chris Brennan hung out. Like it's I don't think like how people understand how important that first plane ride to a fight is.
Yeah. It's fun.
It gets you mentally kind of,
mentally ready. Yeah, you're kind of
yeah,
just sitting there,
adjust.
like adjust, and yeah, the traveling part of it and everything. Yeah, but yeah, Chris Brennan. Yeah, I forgot about Chris Brennan too. Yeah, he was
Another
he,
stud.
he was on all those shows too. That's another guy that was on. I'm pretty sure he fought on a bunch of the IFCs and WCs, right?
Yeah, I was just with him in just outside of Fort Worth, Texas. He has got a phenomenal gym.
Oh, right.
Phenomenal. Yeah, he's got like
Really?
700 students. Yeah. So you fight a Warriors Quest, you rattle off 2 in a row. Your third fight, you lose to Stephen Pauling by triangle.
Yeah, like they said that showed not that he didn't get me. I mean, it showed how green I was. I was doing things, but I wasn't focusing too much. I was being successful with my wrestling. I shot a single on a jiu-jitsu guy, right? And then I remember he locked it in, and I'd been training, but I'm like, that panic came in, and he got me. That's what. And then after that, I was like, oh, I got to train my jiu-jitsu way more.
So John Hackleman, you had an incredible foundation for a gym. Like you had Jake Shields, you had Scott Adams, you had Bo Taylor, Eric Schwartz. You had a really good group of guys. And then Antonio Banuelos shows up, who's undersized as compared to everybody else. What was your first impression of him?
I don't think the size, like, because I mean we had a group of bigger guys too, but we also had we had smaller guys in and out. Some were our guys, like Bo Taylor. Wasn't Bo Taylor? He was pretty small. Whatever happened to Bo Taylor?
He's
I got
doing
this.
roofs.
He's
now.
Dude. He's not changed.
Yeah, it's still crazy, but he's just he's doing people's roofs now.
It's like you better call Saul type, like,
yeah,
infomercials on his Instagram with him talking about doing roofs and dumping on people. I mean, when he won the title belt for like some amateur organization, and he paraded
drinking beer.
He's drinking beer.
Beer. They throw him a beer and he's drinking beer.
He parades it around as the Midwest like championship of the world title.
The world, yeah. When did he say intergender, right?
Even intergender. It was
intergender,
yeah. Intergalactic at one point.
Yeah, something like that.
He was one of my favorite internet trolls at one point.
Yeah.
He was talented.
Yeah.
At that. I mean, he was a good fighter too, but it seemed like that was his calling, was he knew how to get in and like really fuck with people on the internet. I remember that. Yeah. I remember somebody pissed me off once, and where did he live? He was
Oklahoma.
He was
okay.
He was here. Yeah. He was here with us, but then he moved to Oklahoma. Yeah.
I remember calling him and saying, this guy, it was one of those forums. I forget which forum it was.
Probably the underground forum.
Yeah, it was probably the underground. But they were saying something that I didn't like. So I like called him, and he like fucking like put a spell on that person and just like fucking said all kind of like really. I think he got like a photo and he photoshopped it of the guy. Whoever, I can't remember. Maybe he does, but he did his deed. He like he fucked that guy up. Like, I mean, sometimes Antonio and I have had a lot of fights, but sometimes getting trashed on the internet might be worse than a loss. I mean, I there's times where it's like you just like basically he did that for me, and I was like, this guy is a fucking genius. I
He's an
love him.
assassin. Yeah, he's an assassin. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I know about him. He was a good fighter, but I was more impressed with his ability to
Turn
like
screws. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
hack. He could hack in and do he knew how to work that internet, and I really appreciated that. But anyway,
Yeah,
what were
this
you
was
saying
early.
about
This was
what?
early internet too, right?
What we got?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys
It's
frozen now. Everybody's
John.
frozen.
John, I think that's you, buddy.
I don't know why everybody's frozen.
So after that, you take almost an entire year off. Is that what that loss did you? Did it make you kind of
Um,
recalibrate, or did you lose interest?
Recalibrate and train, and then at the time too, I would take fights because there wasn't any 35, so we would jump on fights when we can. And this was like early times where there wasn't that many little guys. So if you fight a bunch of guys in the valley, then those guys are done. So they had to farm people in and stuff like that. So yeah, I buckled down and trained, and then also too, I that was that was actually right before John had taken over the team. That was when I was still out of slow kickboxing, and I think I remember I was juggling jobs. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I was only getting paid like $500 a thing, and I'd sleeping on the homies' couches and things like that. And I think that's when Chuck started steamrolling. I think that might have when he actually moved me in and back home. I had fights, but I just didn't have. I was sick of living on people's couches, and I, I didn't want to work at the bars, and Chuck was just like, dude, if you leave, you're not going to come back. So just stay around and keep training. And yeah, and actually, I think I was I was working for a moving company. Me and Jake
Oh
were working for a moving company, and
man,
I
that's
was
legit.
on the side, um, there was a French restaurant, and my friend was like the head chef, and they had switched. They had opened up the bar late night, and they needed a door guy. And my buddy was like, "Dude, they're just gonna pay you to sit there and check IDs." I'm like, I can't door guy, like, because all the other guys were big. All the other guys on the team were giant. Like, no one's gonna if I tell somebody to put that drink down and leave, no one's gonna be intimidated by me. He's like, it's like they're gonna be open until I think they were only open till like midnight. But yeah, I think that was the time where I was like struggling and still trying to figure out, still take it
Life.
life and take it
Yeah.
seriously. You know what I mean? Because
That's humbling, man. It's
yeah,
humbling. That the period of time in
yeah,
your life, it's so humbling.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So John, you mentioned that it doesn't matter about size. Was there anything about Antonio that stood out immediately, or is it something that just kind of gradually came?
Ah, that's a good one. I think he was known for as a wrestler, but I think he caught on the grappling or the jiu-jitsu too, but that wasn't what I think it was his catching on the power punching, the take a shot, throw him overhand, that kind of stuff. Those, the striking, power striking. He knocked people out with that,
Yeah.
and he had that, either, so he didn't have like Chuck. They didn't have the fear of being taken down, so he would be he would you know wouldn't hesitate to throw a punch with all power because a lot of guys that were more strikers, they were worried so much about being taken down. But guys like Antonio, once that fear's not there, they'll let their hands go more, and that's much more effective, efficient, and entertaining, right?
It's a lot of tools. Like you're starting with a lot of tools.
Do you
Yeah,
lose me?
that's for sure. No, you got. I don't know what's going on with your phone, John. You're good. We got it
Not
all. We
me.
got all that. We got
Okay, you
it.
got that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's I mean that was it. That was
Mhm.
and that's when it was just starting and everybody was just getting their feet in, like figure out how they were gonna, because there's more specialties back then than there is now. But um, we were pretty, our guys were pretty well rounded, and Chuck was, and some of the guys passed in. A lot of guys like Antonio's BFF would come in. A little guy from Orange County, you know.
Oh, Ian McCall.
Ian
Yeah.
McCall would come in, and they were really, I mean, just well-rounded guys, and so
Yeah,
that
they
was,
came in with some tools, already. You just had to sharpen them, and yeah.
yeah.
So Ian McCall, you were BFFs with him.
Yeah, that's my
What?
homie. Still am. He's my guy.
Yeah, no, we great interview too. But you were friends with him like at the peak of the feds really trying to crack down on him.
Yeah, he was a wild man back then. Yeah.
He never really got into a lot of trouble, but they had a helicopter following him for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, time has passed. Let's not name names, but was what he was involved with as big as like what it appeared that the police wanted?
Um, that was down south. So
Wasn't
I don't. Yeah.
because
That-
he's talking about Ian. You said like,
yeah.
well, you're not really talking. He's like talking about Ian.
Yeah. I know. I just
But go ahead.
I mean,
Now
Go ahead.
he was down south, so I didn't really know what was going on down there too much. I would just know when he came up here. You know. That's yeah.
it's a smart non-answer. That's
Yeah.
really good. That's a
He's
really
a, yeah.
it's just,
He was such a personality too, wasn't he? He's just like
Yep.
you could just tell he was. You had Chuck. Even when Chuck made it at his top, even when Chuck was at his top, Ian still came across, and not in a bad way. Some of these guys come across like, wannabe guy, and not wannabes, but they're like big leaguers, like they big league, and they want a couple, they don't have time to take pictures with people. They don't spend the time to talk to their fans and shit. And Ian wasn't like that at all. Ian was
he
very, but
exuded
he,
exuded
but he,
confidence.
he exuded confidence, but he also
Yeah.
came across like he was something, even though we had Chuck who was, like might have been a little higher on the
Yeah.
food chain of certain things, but Ian was just like so much shit going on. He was just and all the while, he was just such a friendly, laughing, great personality, help out, all his friends. But you could just tell this guy was a star, even back then. You could tell there was a star quality about him.
Yeah, the mustache, he had the look.
It was
Yeah.
a hell of a mugshot. Made
Yeah.
for a really good looking mugshot.
Yeah. Yeah. I respect him. I like him. I like Ian a lot. So, we're talking about the regional promotions. I have got to know May 9th, 2002. Joey, check this name out. It might ring a bell. Universal Above Ground Fighting.
Yeah.
Oh, in Hollywood?
Oh yeah. Antonio McKee would fight in that a lot. Yeah.
It was his event. He used to watch.
Yeah.
He used to wash drug money through it. That's
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot. I didn't know
makes
that
a lot of
then.
sense.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, they should have
I
paid me
was at
more.
a couple. Yeah.
Well, what was your experience?
Yeah, dude, was that the Pancration show?
I know, like back then, California had like these weird rules where if the cops
Yeah.
came, it's
If
a
it
movie
was the-
script. Here's the
If
results.
it was the one in Hollywood, was it in Hollywood or like in
Yeah.
LA somewhere? Yeah,
Yeah,
that
at
was
the Henry Ford Theater. He had one.
Yeah, it was open strikes to the head and bare knuckle to the body. Yeah. And I remember, yeah, because John had me doing palm strikes, just throwing hooks. He's like, you're just doing gnarly palm strikes. I remember when I first hit the guy, he like looked at the ref and he's like, his hand's open, you're good to go. And I'm like, oh my God, it's working. So then taking him down and just digging to the body without, like just bare knuckle. Yeah. So fun. Yeah. It was it was a small arena. The warm-up room was really tight. Yeah.
Gerald Strebent was on this card.
Oh, yeah.
He was the first fight of the night.
So long ago. Yeah.
And I'll tell you another person who was in attendance. I've seen a little video of this. Rafael Torre was in attendance.
Maybe wasn't Boss Rutan the MC? Or maybe he was there with the fighter. I can't remember. He was probably there with the fighter, but yeah, it was just like, oh, whoa! I remember seeing, there's Boss right there. I was like warming. I remember having to warm up outside because it was so packed in the back. So I was like behind.
That wasn't the one where the cops came and we had to just fucking split.
No, I wasn't at that. I wasn't at that show. I remember you guys telling me that. I wasn't at that show.
Yeah, that was a scary one.
So, John, I think you'll attest to this. At the promotions where if the cops came, you had to split, the promoters would often have like a second shirt on. So if anybody were to point the promoter out, they could kind of like walk out with the audience. I've been at a few of those. I was at the kind of the tail end of those here in the Chicagoland area. Those are cool. Those are great days.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
those are wild times.
they were wild. I remember somebody was hurt. He got hurt in the fight. Then they asked me to stitch him up or something. And I remember being outside and the fucking cops coming. And I was trying to finish stitching this guy up. And everybody was trying to like cockroaches. Everybody was like splitting. And I think it was in LA or downtown LA or maybe the Valley. But I remember we all had to split. I don't know if those are the crazy cowboy days.
You're at a crossroads. Do I just tie this thing up half done, or do I let it hang off and he can just go to the hospital and they can kind of finish the work I started?
Right, yeah. Just cut it there and let him go, right? Half stitches, it'll be okay.
Get a little Sharpie, write the time,
just buy a Band-Aid, you'll be good to go.
Yeah, I would never. I don't care who was coming. If once I start stitching, I'm not gonna stop. But
no, you can't.
I think I had to finish him up in the cars. It was something weird, and I was like, I'm a grown man. Why am I running from cops in a fight? I'm not even a fucking criminal, but I'm running from cops. I've never,
hiding in the car, stitching somebody up, right? Yeah.
Anyway, that was a good one. Remember the guy who was stitched up in Hawaii, and he was mad at me because it wasn't you that fought him, but it was who fought him? It was that other. It was I forget who fought him, but we were in his corner, and we're yelling at the guy, elbow him, and he kept elbowing him, and it was in Hawaii. I think it was one of BJ's brother's promotions.
Okay.
Remember, he kept elbowing him, and he cut him, and he ended up beating him. And then JD came on and said, "Hey, our commission, our doctor, he never come. He's not here. Can you stitch up the guy in the back?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's okay." And I go back there. It's the guy that we had just fought.
I do remember this. Yeah.
Him and his wife were looking at me like they hate me because they heard me right there in the corner saying, elbow him. I forget who it was because they didn't have a corner, and they're like, you can't go out without somebody. And they asked you, and you're like, "Hey, Antonio, we're going with this guy." I'm all, okay, I'll grab the bucket. I'm like, all right, let's go. I think it was one of it might have been one of Cesar Gracie's guys.
Yeah, maybe.
Might have been. But anyway,
Cesar Gracie's guy is just Jake Shields.
Yeah, but I don't think. But Jake. Yeah, Jake wasn't on that card. Yeah.
He was either a Mexican or a Hawaiian.
Yeah.
I remember his card. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. This is a while ago.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Obviously, because it was not a commissioned fight. That's why the doctor wasn't there. But
okay. So Stephen Hetch was 4-0. I mean, that's a good fight on paper. 3-1 versus Forno. Yeah, you beat him, and then you go on to Jeff Bedard. Jeff Bedard's debut. Here's the thing about Bedard. It's his debut right after this fight. This guy goes on a 9-fight win streak
Yeah.
to fight Miguel Torres for the title.
That was actually, and then I was supposed to fight somebody else that day, and that was like, so that was back in when you'd show up, and if your guy wasn't there, was somebody fill in. I'm if I can remember it right, I think I was supposed to fight somebody else, and I was like, still, it will take it. Yeah, and he got me. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, guillotine. I mean, it was upper weight class too. Am I correct? Was that at 45 or 35?
I'm pretty sure it was at 35 or maybe 40 because I can't remember. Like I said, I'm pretty sure we got there and the guy that they told me wasn't gonna fight. And then, but I was like, they got this guy and we are like, yeah, let's do it. And it might have been because it was weigh-ins day and I was like, let's go. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it went. If not, but yeah, he got me. What are you gonna do?
One of the early WECs, and guillotine. Like I said, Bedard definitely a top tier opponent.
Yeah,
at this point, for sure. You go out to Hawaii, Rumble on the Rock, Jim Kikuchi. Jim is 4-2. Those Hawaiian fighters at this time, like the rumor was that we were hearing in the Midwest, terrible on the ground, will beat the tar out of you on your feet. Like they always see the Hawaiian stand-up was some of the best in the world.
Yeah, they were tough guys. The crowd was gnarly. They were screaming at me the whole time on the walkout. Like, yeah, I was more worried about the crowd. They were like, yeah, they were, John will attest to this. They were using that Hallie word a lot. Like, go back to mainland Hallie, this and that. And I believe after that fight, I had mentioned like I trained with BJ just to try to win the crowd over, and like then I got some cheers. But yeah, there was one of the I got booed in Canada, and I'm pretty sure I got booed there. But yeah, I remember the crowd just screaming stuff like that, and John's like, "Don't worry about it. We're gonna take care of it right now."
John, would you agree that the passion of the Hawaiian mixed martial arts community, like you'd be hard pressed to find like another location like you could find on the islands? Very passionate.
Yeah, I think it's just fighting. I don't think it's MMA. I think I mean they've always been fighters, and I mean even I remember fucking grade school watching two guys fight would be like watching two professional boxers fighting. It's just Hawaii guys like to fight, um but they seem to pick up. Not, I mean, they'll beat your ass standing. Yeah, that's true. But they picked up. They picked up. They picked up. They picked up everything pretty quick. I mean, just I think
2002. I'm just telling you the rumor. That's kind of like what we heard. Yeah.
Song had it was Song, right? Yeah. Who's that? Was that fight you were talking about? Yeah. He was on the ground, right? Was he a ground guy?
No, it's Jim Kikuchi. Song is later on.
Okay. Oh, I was backwards. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
J.R. Palmer, the hype behind that guy before he got derailed.
Before Danny Boy.
Yeah.
Who's the guy from Hawaii? And then here's a white guy, and then his son was real good too. And I think he helped with a promotion.
So Ray Cooper? Oh no.
KG
Bob
Dude, yeah.
Nunes.
Coons, right?
So she's got the daughter.
Yeah, Cooper is just those. I think Lighty fought Cooper's dad. The guy that's out there now, Ray Cooper, the third, isn't he the third out now?
I think the father is he the second or the third? I get confused on that.
One of them, the one that's probably would be close to 50-ish or late. That would be, I think Lighty fought him, and when Lighty was walking out to the cage, they were yelling, "Go back to the mainland, Howley!"
Yeah, see, told you. Yeah, the fans are nuts.
But yeah, Cooper, that Cooper clan, man. the Cooper, the Junes, and the Kai Kamakas. Those three families right there, they're like the godfathers of of MMA in Hawaii. And then it would be BJ and his family would
Well,
be like the kings.
would you throw the Ostovich family in there as well
I
with
never heard
Bob
that.
and his daughter?
I never heard of that.
Oh, the
I
Ostovich?
never heard.
Okay.
No.
Bob fought, his
From
daughter
Hawaii?
fought. Yeah.
Never heard that.
Okay.
There was some girl that killed herself, right? What was
a
that
different
family?
family. That was a different family. Yeah, the one FC.
What family is that? They were Chinese or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
was sad. Super sad. Super, super sad. Right around this time, Chuck Liddell is fighting Randy Couture at UFC 43. So, like the full court press in regards to the community and like what the pit is doing. Antonio, you're his personal assistant. Like that's a pretty wild time for you guys.
It was it was a wild time. Fun. Yeah, super fun. Crazy, you know.
Wow. I think
I don't know what you wanted to say. Yeah, it was nuts. I know, everybody's got families now and people have kids, and so it was fun. Yeah, we had a good time.
Foot's on the gas pedal for across the board.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Literally across the board. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and having the house packed with fighters and training, and then Chuck flying out, and then everybody driving up, the week before and staying in hotels and staying at the hotel, and just
we'd have to train. We'd have to train in like the hallways. Of the hotels because everybody had a fight coming up, but Chuck was fighting in the UFC and he was the biggest, and everybody else was fighting though, so we had to keep everybody in shape, and it was crazy.
You get a call at like 7 and John be like, "Come to the room, we're gonna work out." I'm like, "Huh? All right." 7 at night and going there, we're doing we're doing blackjack or PT for convicts, push-ups and burpees and squats and sit-ups, just in Hack's room, just cranking out the numbers, just like everybody in there, 3 people working out, do what we got to do to stay in shape.
Joey, UFC 43, I remember like the build-up, just going, come on, man, it ain't gonna happen, and when they started walking that aisle, I lost my mind. Like I couldn't believe like in this time period I existed.
The sport was turning a corner right then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, dude. Was that their first fight?
Yes.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah. It's like, he was injured. But what are you gonna do?
And and Randy was out training with us because Matt was one of my guys. Matt Lindman was one of my guys. And he would come out and he would do his camps out with us. He actually he was sleeping in my office when he was in town. And then Randy came out once because they were both out of Team Quest. And I was working with Randy on something at the gym. Like I was just telling him, because he was such a wrestler. Some wrestlers have a harder time with their striking, and they just they look kind of stiff. And so I was like dogging on him and telling him he's got to learn how to hit harder and ground and pound. And we were doing stuff on the heavy bag that was on the ground and pound. Then when he beats Chuck their first fight. He like comes up in interview and says, "How did I do? I guess because I said you got to learn how to hit harder." And then after he beat Chuck, he said something like, "Oh, how am I hitting now?" Like, oh God, that was low, bro. But anyway,
wait, John, here. Let me ask you this: do you think Matt may have been relaying what Chuck was doing in preparation to Randy?
I don't think they were there at the same. I don't think I don't think Matt was there. I don't remember Matt's camps and Chuck's camps being at the same time very often, because this is a time where Matt came out, Chuck wasn't going to fight Randy, but then Randy came out and trained because I guess nobody had a fight coming up right then. So Randy came out. Then Matt. Was there another Team Quest? Oh, the guy that was,
Evan Tanner.
no. This guy was
Avocado.
like the avocado. What was his name? His
I can't
name.
remember. I remember you called him avocado. That's all I remember.
He ended up fighting Glover and
Yeah.
lost. He lost the closest. He fought in the UFC.
So Matt,
Did he
fought
really?
once in the
dude,
UFC.
who's the crazy guy? You're talking about the is he
Yeah.
like nuts? Like he talks about like the multiverse.
Yeah, and he had
whoa.
to be. He couldn't be like whenever he traveled, there had to be someone with him, and he
Come on,
just
Joey.
he was
Matt
Joey.
Horwich? I don't
Matt
know.
Horwich. That's
yeah,
it.
Horwich.
Oh my
That's it.
God.
And
Thank you.
nice. I mean, he also during his camps he would stay at my house.
Yeah.
And
I remember walking by
yeah.
the room one time and he was just doing curls in the middle of like it was like 8 p.m. He was just cranking out curls. I was like, all right, I'm leaving. Just doing curls with like 45-pound dumbbells. Like,
Oh, it'd be like, oh, that's 8 o'clock. At 2 in the
Yeah.
morning. At 2 in the morning, I get up to go pee, and he's in there watching video. He was watching Mario Sperry videos. He was like, I'm gonna get him with this technique. He was fucking great, though. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Underappreciated.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh,
just a little side note. So when we interviewed him, he had to use the Wi-Fi for Starbucks, and almost gets in a fight with one of the baristas. And then he explains to us that he's homeless.
Oh.
Because
And,
he doesn't want to waste money on rent.
yes,
Oh.
he's got almost
That's-
enough money for his down payment,
Yeah.
and he just couldn't imagine spending any money on rent at all. It's just so
Nope.
dumb. And if a girl doesn't accept him for sleeping on the beach, then she's just not meant for him.
Nope. I can shower at the 24-hour fitness. Why would I pay rent? That's what he said.
Oh,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Avocado he was a character. He was a
Absolute Viking, a Viking, and very talented. Very talented.
Yeah, he was very, 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 and it was. I mean, it was a sad thing, and I remember talking to his mom, and she loved MMA because it was the first time that he was so he loved it. That was his thing, and I asked her, does it? I mean, is it ever scary? I mean, he's got, if he gets hit too hard, I mean, what's
clearly he's got some issues, right?
Yeah. But she said, well, he's doing what he loves, so I'd rather him, do what he loves, and this is what he loves. So she was a very good mom. She's actually a registered nurse, and we had a lot of talk about him. But the point
That's
was
awesome.
that whole
That's
thing
awesome.
was that they didn't enter. I don't think I think Randy and when they came out. Oh, and Dan Henderson came out too.
Yeah.
I got pictures of those days. So that was a time where the whole Team Quest came out. We were kind of interacting and training with them. We also trained with the American Top Team guys a lot, and mainly, American kickboxing, because they all had the same manager, the best manager ever, Dwane Zinkin. And
Yeah.
they were all, he was all those AKA guys managers, and he managed Chuck. So they came down a lot, and then we had a lot of cross. I don't know if I say breeding, cross breeding, maybe.
Cross training, yeah, cross training. So
Cross training.
I like breeding.
So little side note: Dwane Zinkin, when Sean Shirk in our interview with him explained the only way he could get into the UFC is when they sent a different manager other than Monty Cox a contract. That was Dwane Zinkin. So Dwayne, did you guys like him as a manager? Was that sarcasm or?
No.
Oh, I love Zinkin. I still love him.
He was great.
They're homies.
He was
They're
great.
homies.
He was great. I think it was. I mean, from what I've seen of managers, and I don't see that. I don't interact that much. I'm the trainer, but I thought he was. I love the guy. I'm still in touch. Chuck's marrying his old assistant. I mean, they're getting married in October. Yeah, Heidi, good Heidi.
That's some breaking news right there. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody even knew that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh shit.
You know,
Sorry, Chuck. Yeah.
The October 10th, 2003 Rumble on the Rock had BJ Penn versus Gomi.
oh yeah, I
And
was there for that.
yeah, you were on the card. You mean
Oh
you
yeah.
fought Kyong Song, and like that event alone, in terms of like prestige and like the volume of it and like how big it was,
Yeah, they're the
you
two
could
best at the time,
argue,
right? Yeah.
dude, you could argue like that was the biggest event on the planet at that time.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Oh, maybe I was the first fight on that card
Yeah, you opened it
coming
up.
up. Yeah, yeah. I got the DVD somewhere.
Yeah, I just watched it. Yeah, I just watched it. So Kyung Song was your opponent, and it was at 132 pounds.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what you weighed in. That was like the lowest up until this point that you
Yeah.
got.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. If they've said 32 or 35, I could do it. So, yeah, like I said, I was a small 35er in general.
Wow.
So I mean, yeah, and at the time you got to take, like I said, there was a lot of times that I still got to take what got to take because there wasn't that many small guys out there. So
Yeah, Kyung Song, you beat him in the third round with a cut. That's a badass event to be on. And from there, you take almost another year off. And Alex Oxendine, the matchmaker for Sport Fight.
oh yeah, in Reno.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lined you up with Brandon Shuey.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. That was because Chuck had just started The Ultimate Fighter. Randy had something to do with that show too. I remember because I actually think that's how I got on the card because Chuck and Randy were talking and they were talking about the card and he got me on that card and they were gonna fly out. Both of them were gonna fly out, and Dana didn't let it happen. But yeah, I remember that. It was in Reno. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So if you look at Brandon Shuey's record, he's 4-2. His losses are Del Hawkins and Ivan Menjivar. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, those are two high-end names right there. Like, it's not, you can't really judge a book by his losses when those are his only two.
Yeah. Tough guys. What are you gonna do? Like I said, we take fights no matter what. You know, they said fight. You're gonna fight this guy at 35s, and we'd bite on it. Let's go.
John, you had talked about throwing caution to the wind. 22-second KO when Banuelos, when Antonio commits to just like kill mode, it's like every ounce of his body he almost comes off the ground, like the torque takes him off the ground with his overhand rights.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Right, there we go. Yeah. Yes.
That's a good thing. That's the I think Chuck has an overhand right. He used a lot too, but the one I've blended into my curriculum, which is it's a traditional martial art curriculum, but there's a lot of stuff that I picked up along the way from MMA, and the overhand right that my students learn and belt on and practice is it's always the Antonio overhand. We talk about that one more than any other one because of threatening with a shot, and then all of a sudden threatening a shot, then all of a sudden threatening a shot overhead right, bing.
Yep.
That's like the ultimate, just the ultimate. To me, that's the ultimate overhand right in a street fight or an MMA match. It wasn't for boxing as much, but it is for like a real fight. So yeah, so that overhand right, I think that was by far his best strike. And he would put people to sleep with that one.
Oh yeah.
They'd expect a shot, so they like go. Everybody, all the wrestlers want to underhook, and all of a sudden, oh, he's doing a shot, and then their hands come down. All of a sudden, boom, and they're asleep.
Yeah,
So
it's more of like a foot placement, and as wild as as wild as that punch is coming, it's very tight though. Like he's not cocking. It's just part of his motion. And man, if you bite on something like that, and yeah, you ain't getting up. You're not. I don't. You can knock out a heavyweight with that easily. Easily knock out a heavyweight.
Thank
with
you. Yeah.
that.
Anyone you hit with the chin, and if you hit anybody on the chin with that, they're going to sleep.
Yeah. Anybody for sure. It's
And
everything.
some people's are too wide. Maybe they're not as compact as Antonio. It's wider, and if it lands, they'll knock him out. But that compact one he had, it was a knockout punch. But what made it better was threatening the shot first, and that was it made
Innovative.
it like you're fucked if you do, and you're fucked if you don't. So they just rather go to sleep than get taken down.
Yeah, it's not an arm punch. It's literally every ounce of weight in your body behind your fist and then the extension at the end. Yeah, no, it's man, dude, ugly. That would Mike Lindquist is your next opponent. Kind of a Midwest guy. I've probably seen this guy fight live 30 times. I think B-side, you win a title. Was he a last minute replacement?
Was it WC?
WEC for the title.
Yeah.
WEC
Okay.
14.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. That's I'm trying to picture the face.
Big ticket seller. I
know. Because that was in Lemoore, and I'm from the Central Valley, so Lemoore is like right center. Fresno's over here, Tulsa's right here.
Okay.
I wrestled there.
Start the title out.
And just it's just like everybody from everybody's from the valley. Yeah.
He had Eldred Nunn, dude, old school boxing guy in his corner. He used to market himself as like a Militich Fighting Systems guy. And then the Militich guy started showing up at his fights. And oh my God. Good. You were supposed to fight Olaf Alonso and it was canceled.
Yeah, I guess. Sure. Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I think he was heavier and he didn't want to come down. But, one of our kickboxing guys ended up fighting him, Polakowski, later on down the way.
God, do you remember Olaf?
Yeah, the guy buckets of blood fought.
Oh, it's a blood fight. I remember that fight. Yeah, Olaf.
That guy. Yeah.
In his corner yelling.
Yeah.
He could take crazy amounts of punishment. Crazy.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them. That's how John named Pollock that buckets of blood because of that fight alone, because he was just bleeding everywhere.
Yeah. Phenomenal. You were also supposed to fight a shootout. Like we're talking about like the difficulty of getting fights due to your weight class. You were supposed to fight in the WFF September 17, 2005 in Vancouver. Max Marin was your opponent. And that got postponed. Were you out there by the time it got postponed? Because I know the cops got involved and shut that event down.
No, I don't think I had gone out there yet.
Okay.
I know there was one show. I was a replacement fight, and John, they called the week of and like, hey, I had just fought the week before or the weekend before.
Yeah, it's the next
John
one.
And John was like, hey, they need you. And it was Monday night or Tuesday night. I literally just got done eating round table pizza. And John's like, can you make 35s? I'm like, well, yeah, I'll just stop eating right now. And he's like, okay, I'll call you back. All right. And then he called me back and said, hey, you're flying out on Thursday. Go to the gym and start cutting weight. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go cut weight. They call me and they say, hey, do you have your blood work? And I had my blood work from that last fight. So then I sent it to him. I make weight. All right. I cut weight. I get out there and the commission gave the promoter a hard time about my blood work not being in on time. And so they wouldn't let the fight happen. They didn't let me get on the scale. And everything was cleared. And he's like, he's a replacement fight. And they're like, they had just started the commission. And the commission's like, no, we told you their stuff had to be in a month ago. And he's like, well, he's a last minute replacement from the States. And they just stuck to their guns because it was MMA was just starting there. And yeah, they wouldn't let me fight.
Wait a minute. It was okay. Ed Tomaselli, he beat him by cut. He's 3-1. That's October 14th. October 22nd, Ultimate Cage Wars in Winnipeg. Justin Tavernini.
Why you beating up all the Italians?
Oh, that's who they gave me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So you never fought Justin Tavernini?
I fought two guys in Canada. I went to Winnipeg. Was that in Winnipeg? I remember went to go to Winnipeg.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a week later. But that's a week later.
Yeah, there was one when I went out to Canada and they didn't let me because of the blood work.
Okay, that's not this one. I think I'm almost
one.
positive you fought this one. Okay.
Yeah, I fought that one. Yeah, I know. I went to in Winnipeg. I fought. I think the other one was in Vancouver.
Dude, the bikers at that time controlled everything in Vancouver.
Those are the homies. I knew a couple of them. Yeah, they were all there with us. Yeah.
Yeah, that was no joke, man. Okay. You fight in Guam, Kimihito, Nonaka.
Yeah.
You're taking plane rides, dude. Like, you're pretty cool. Back in WEC, James Cottrell. He's out of American Woo Hee. He's 6-2. John Hackleman. Chuck Liddell gets surgery on his toe in the morning and shows up at this fight to show some support. Is that it's not the perfect kind of example of what type of human being Chuck Liddell is?
I'm trying to think. Which fight was that? Where was it?
It was
for
WEC
me.
19. Yeah.
It was for me because Chuck had just had surgery.
Where was it?
Probably in the Valley.
Yeah, Lemoore.
Lemoore. Yeah.
Okay.
No. It's family.
Yeah, sure.
Our gym. We're family Ohana. That's us. That's the pit. That's like
Chuck's,
our thing.
He would I don't see him. I don't see him not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eddie Wineland, May 5th, 2006. So prior to this, Chris Lidell goes out to WEC. His boxing coach, Keith Palmer, calls me up. Hey, dude, Chicagoland area. They're looking to keep the title in California, but they want to bring either Wineland, Chase Beebe, or Miguel Torres out. All those guys live
those
within
3 days right there, right?
Yeah. All those guys live within 45 minutes of each other. And I'm like, man, I kind of gave everything the breakdown. And I'm like, Torres is probably the most, accomplished. Chase Beebe's got the best wrestling. Like, if there's gonna be a wrestling contest, it's gonna be kind of pinning. Chase Beebe might get it, Division I wrestler. I go, Wineland has issues with takedowns, but man, he hits like a Mack truck.
Yeah, we fucking gunned at it. If we were gunning and got the best of me that one, but
Dude, but you cracked him. You touched him a few times.
Yeah, we were going. Like I said, yeah. You're
like, you landed that punch. He's 10-4-1. Keith and Justin Wisniewski are in his corner. Keith, future UFC veteran. Dude, that is like, when was the last time you watched that?
It's been a while, and I don't have Fight Pass. So
you had him.
Yeah.
You had him.
Well, you write it, everything's going well until you lose, right? What are you gonna do? That's the fight game.
Yeah, no, you had him. Your next fight, you're up against Cole Escovedo. Both you guys are 11-3. Lots of mutual respect between the two of you. Current police officer. Cole Escovedo.
Really?
Yeah.
In Fresno?
I believe. I'm not sure where he's at.
Yeah. Because he was a big draw in the Valley too. I think that one he was. He
had like a slot machine with his face on it.
Oh, I got one of those too. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They made those too. But yeah.
Yeah, two guys 11-3, 135 pounds. Like, you just. Yeah, the winner was supposed to get a fight with Eddie Wineland again. John, his game plan going into this was like timing the kicks and entries and just straight counter punching.
Yeah, are you asking me?
Yeah, I mean, it's Cole Escovedo was legit.
Yeah,
and Antonio.
I think the main concern was his limbs. Like if it hit the ground, especially.
We had to stay tight. We were trying to stay tight because he was known for a lot of submissions, but we were just let the hands fly and
But we knew
If you
if the
got
hands, if he touched him in the chin, then that would be the perfect outcome. But it was, I mean, it was, take down, watch the ground. So he had the striking and the takedowns, but
yeah,
try
I
to
think I
keep
didn't
it.
think that fight. I don't know if I shot into like the third round. It's been a while since I watched that one.
It's
Um,
dude, it's great. It's
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah.
Phenomenal fight. Yeah. Cab
Nice guy.
28. Cab 28.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. I didn't even know what it was until a couple
I
years ago.
It was just a guy's. Cobb was the guy's name, and I think 28 was like his favorite number or something. But he just paid all the fighters, and he started his own clothing company. Right?
He started a clothing company, but like nobody knew what it was.
Yeah. Nobody. Yeah.
Still don't.
Like it's like a
Yeah.
no, it's
Right. Yeah.
like
We still don't.
it's
Oh,
like an S going one way and an S going the other way. It's actually a C above a 2 and an 8, like in like a flame,
the
and
weird. Yeah. Yeah.
it's really strange. And I for years I'm like I'd rack my brain going, I'd like to know what this is. And
He had a clothing store here in San Luis for a bit too, and it sold like Affliction and a lot of stuff like that at the time. I mean, I think it was only around for like 2 years, but that was like, I think he was trying to start a clothing
I mean,
company,
did he have a
and
ton of money? Because he was on Chuck,
I,
he was on
Yeah,
you.
he had family money. He just had family money, and they
yeah,
said, I don't, here's some money, go start a little business, Junior.
right.
He did, and he had a lot of fighters for.
For a
He paid
while,
everyone,
yeah,
Yeah, he
paid
had
everybody.
he
I
he
mean, no one
sponsored a
ever complained.
bunch.
yeah,
They were
yeah.
wearing his stuff.
I didn't know where to find it.
Yeah. It was here, like yeah, it was. I think he said his home base was here in San Luis Obispo because yeah, but I'm trying to remember where it was at. It was over, yeah. I think it's like a
I didn't hear that.
boba. I think it's like a boba place now. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
over off of
You,
Foothill.
okay, you were also sponsored by Sinister
Yeah, Ed,
at Soros.
Ed Source. Yeah, because Glover, I think I forget. He was around maybe because was he Glover's manager for a bit? That was yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, he gave us a bunch of gear too.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
but I think he did the gear thing with us
yeah,
before Glover. He
that's right.
was
Yeah, no, and he did.
he 'cause he had
Yeah,
he was with he knew Chuck, and he was
yeah,
Orange County guy. That's just like that's where Tito and them. So I think it was more that. I think
yeah, that's right.
later he had a Black House, and
Oh,
he
okay,
did.
okay, yeah.
He's Glover's co-manager. Still
He's
is.
also one of the main owners of the LFA as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he is. He's a
he's got his hands in
promoter.
a lot.
What did he have before? Was that it?
I
Did
thought
he
it
have
was
a different
Sinister.
promotion before? No, but promotion.
Ooh.
I forgot.
I'd be lying to you. Yeah, I don't even want to guess. You were also supposed to fight on Nick Diaz's MMA promotion, War MMA.
Yeah, when they first started, I remember that. Yeah, and then maybe they couldn't get anybody or something like that. Yeah.
Is that what
Oh,
it was?
I can't remember. Like I said, this is you guys. You guys are pulling everything up. You guys are pulling fights that you remind me. Well, yeah, I was supposed to fight, and I ended up not fighting. Like you guys did your work. I was like, oh, go.
No,
Oh,
he did his work. That's why he's the MMA detective.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
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 Dream FC was having some financial issues. Did you get stiffed by that?
Dream.
Yeah.
The second time around, yeah, they never paid me. I fought that night. I fought Imanari and Bibiano. They paid me the first time. The second time they didn't pay me. That would have got up right there. But I guess I got a trip to Japan and fought twice in one night. But that show was that they had. I mean, Sakuraba was there, Bader was there, Josh Barnett. It was crazy. It was a wild time. The
Yeah.
second time, New Year's Eve, Saitama Dome packed. I guess that alone without getting paid, right?
Did a lot of guys get stiffed?
Yeah,
I know I got
on that,
stiffed. I know a bunch of people. Yeah.
yeah, on that card,
Yeah.
yeah.
They paid me the first time around for the Takora fight, and the second time, and they're like, yeah, You know, I had my manager at the time, Mike, I forget his last name, but yeah, they said they're gonna go, and then I needed the money, you know what I mean? I was living,
Never got.
I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, it went dark. There's no response. And then, you read everything online, and but yeah, but it was fun. The Saitama Dome's awesome. I remember that. That was another memorable moment. They had everything you could think about it. They had a kickboxing fight. They had wrestling, and everything. Antonio Inoki was there. He slept. At the end of the show for New Year's Eve, because he's big pro wrestling star. He would slap people as good luck. So the end of the show ends, and Inoki's in there, and he's all dressed up, super nice, and everybody's lining up, and we're like waiting for the bus. We're like, what's this? And then one of the guys, he actually ended up talking to another American out there who had a gym or something like that. And he's like, oh, this is like a thing, that's his thing in pro wrestling. And my jiu-jitsu guy at the time, Judge Frazier, who's my other partner here, he's like, they're gonna slap, and watch him, and he's slapping people. And Frazier's like, I'm in Japan. He got in and went in, and Inoki slapped him in the face. We're like, holy crap! But yeah, and then they didn't pay me, so I guess
Got you twice.
and at the end they didn't pay me, so I'm not bitter about it at all. I just keep bringing it up 3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah, you get a wild career, man. Like it's like if you look at the totality of your work, the body of your work, Joey, I know I think you also saw him fight Charlie Valencia, right, Joey?
I trained with Charlie Valencia for a long time, so yeah, I was close to that fight. He was
he beat me on the Tap Out show.
Right, so he was the last minute replacement.
I wouldn't say last minute, maybe 3 weeks, but okay. I was getting ready, Okay.
But Tap Out was following you. I mean,
following me, me, and then they replaced it, and I remember because it was like they were coming out, and then they called and said like, because they were driving down to do like all this stuff, and it was like 2 or 3 weeks, but I took the fight, and he beat me.
Did Tap Out crew encourage the two of you to have a beef? Because I know there was some heat there. No,
I don't think so. From what I can remember, no, they knew him because they knew who he was. So
yeah, he was coming off King of the Cage at the time.
Yeah, they knew him. So like, I don't remember anything like that.
Oh, okay.
I know.
I heard there was an awkward elevator ride. That's all. I heard there was an awkward elevator ride before.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah,
if
you get a bunch of fighters in the elevator, and it's their team and our team, like pre-fight, you have to be quiet and like everybody looking over, And
I'm sure
everybody's primed for it. Yeah, I'm sure. Like like you said,
I'm sure you two would get along fine right now.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
We're all old now. Yeah, but
Demetrius Johnson gave an interview talking about the old days, and he said,
"Oh, you guys are gonna get me in trouble right now with Hack because I used to keep secrets from him about being injured."
That's so you obviously are aware. He mentioned you by name, saying, "Yeah, when our time at WEC, we used to be hiding our injuries in order to get them fixed with the insurance afterward."
Yeah, I did it with my hand. I did it with my foot before. Like, but yeah, we just wouldn't tell John, because if you told John would pull the fight because he would look out for us. But there was a couple times I had to get paid, and I remember John taping up my hand, and like I'm like, but John does the best tape job ever. So, but I remember like going, holy fuck, my hand hurts, but we got to get paid, and then get it checked out afterwards, because that's what you had to do.
What about yourself? I asked John's opinion of yourself. Like we had discussed prior to John getting here, the Pit doesn't have a team; they've got a family.
Yeah.
When did you like kind of understand like that relationship? When did you buy in?
Well, I bought in when, like I said, that time when Chuck didn't let me leave long ago, because he knew it, and I was gonna take off. I didn't have a place, and he's just like, if you leave, you're never coming back. So when somebody and he was just kind of starting out too. You know what I mean? He didn't have to offer me a place to live. You know what I mean? And then him trusting his trainer to take over his team. You know what I mean? And then John just, it was just a smooth transition, and like he's, it was just a family. So it's like guys like that. That's it's means a lot. Just means a lot. So that's what I try to. I'm trying to pass that on with my guys, since so
subtract John Hackleman and Pitt from your life. Where do you think you're at?
I'd be dead
Yeah.
or in prison, definitely.
I
Probably
heard.
dead.
Yeah, I
That was a
heard you
wild
were.
man.
Yeah, I heard you were
Like I
pushing.
said, without wrestling, I lost my way and I didn't have a path, and I mean, I didn't even, because I was all wrestling, and coming from my background with my family, and being in the Central Valley, I actually wouldn't even drink or anything like that, until I mean, I would drink once a year to sell, every now and then. But then when I stopped wrestling, I like 19 years, actually 18 years, still 18 or 19, and I was like, well, I'll try drinking out, which is dumb, right?
Yeah, not
and
good.
and then it just spirals out of control, and like I said, then those guys drug me back, and then it gave me a purpose, and I'm grateful for it. And that's like with my gym, I try to help out as many people, even though it's not a fight gym. Like I said, I'm trying to help people and give back to the two sports that help me the most, and just hopefully I can, if somebody needs something, I'm there to help them out in
Yeah.
the right way, be a positive influence, I guess.
John Hackleman, you what's your third time on our show? We did Chuck, we did Antonio, we did yourself. Do you do you understand like how many lives you've changed? Does it dawn on
Crazy,
you, or do you just
right?
kind of put it behind you?
I didn't get that. I didn't get what you said.
Do you understand like how many lives you've changed? Like does that impact you at all, or do you just kind of put it behind you?
No, I just remember how many people, have helped me, and I have a group, I have a little, I have a group of people that have changed me. Number one would be, outside of my immediate family, would be my instructor, who was, you know, Walter Godin. So he was my instructor since I was 10. Changed everything, changed my life a lot. And he wasn't a very nice he wasn't a nice person. He spent a lot of time in prison, but he was my guy. He made me tough, and he spent a lot of time working with me and focusing on me at the gym. And I try to do that. I have a lot of students starting at 3 years old. I got a 70-year-old I'm pushing right now to he's getting his black belt this year, and my black belt test is very difficult. And so yeah, I'm pushing him so hard to do it, and I know it'll change his life, and I wanted to, because of all of the people that have touched mine. So yeah, I think I do know, and my fighters, I think they're very appreciative. Most of them. There's some guys that don't make it, and then I could have been a champion, but oh, they held me back. Oh yeah, John, yeah, he was. It's like, so there's those guys, and that bothers me, even though I pretend it doesn't. But I think we've touched a lot of lives and changed a lot, and I think the pit as a whole, like
Yeah.
Antonio and Chuck, and they've come into the pit and been in the pit too, so they have their own students that they're touching right now. And so it's like,
John,
Yeah, well,
John, I'm not trying to be a dick here. What you said is obviously very, very touching. You being a leader and kind of understanding the finish line that you got to cross, it's not, there's no rule book, there's no like guide. You just got to do it. It's got to be
yeah,
incredibly difficult to kind of get
yeah.
where you were to where it's at. I've never seen a gym like you guys. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it probably doesn't. I don't know if that's a bad thing or
Ah,
I
it's
think it's a
beautiful.
bad thing.
It's
I think
beautiful.
it's a good. No, it is, but there's the downside to it, because I don't have the fight, fight, fight mentality, and sometimes some people might have gone farther if they weren't, I was focused on, I it was it was Antonio and Chuck, and there was like these guys, and there was the periphery, but we tried to work with them, but I wasn't American Top Team. I didn't have fucking 42 coaches, it's me, and then some people would help out here and there, but I mean, I did the best I can. I think I've had a lot of help along the way, and like I said, my fighters are also my instructor because in my curriculum is a lot of stuff that I've picked up from Antonio and Chuck and Glover and guys like that, and now it's in my curriculum. So sometimes the instructor learns more from their students. So it's a family gym. That's what it is,
Man,
number
it's
one.
beautiful. It's beautiful. There really is. Gentlemen, had you guys on a little over 90 minutes. Antonio, I know it took a little while to kind of
Yeah.
connect.
Sorry about that. Yeah, well, you at the night, and
Life.
like I said,
Yeah, it's
just me
life.
at the gym. Yeah.
Yeah. John, you've been a consummate gentleman. I mean, every single time we've ever asked you to come on one of these, you've always done it, and it's greatly, greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Love your guys' show, and love my little Antonio here, and that's it. Love you guys. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Is Ken McGee open to one of these?
Yeah, he
Huh?
just became a sheriff,
Dude,
right?
It's a
Ken
scary
Yeah.
McGee.
sheriff.
Not
Dude,
quite.
I've produced three
He's
sheriffs. All my
a
amateur
jail.
fighters are all become
He's
sheriffs.
jail.
He's at the jail. But
Yeah.
yeah, but they're sheriffs at the jail. But yeah,
Yeah.
I got three of my John's amateurs too. Have all become sheriffs here. We like
I'm
one
gonna
more,
try
they
to
give us
pin
a
him
free
down.
hat.
I just
One
trained
more,
with
they give us a
Lou.
free hat.
We'd love to do
I just
Gan and Jason Von Flew. Those would be two really good ones.
And Glover.
Oh, hell yeah.
G lover, yeah. Well, good.
Glover's
I love Glover, but he's maybe getting a little big leaguing.
Oh, come on. He was just here a while back. What are you talking about, John?
He would do it. He would do
Yeah, he
it.
would definitely do it. Yeah.
And Gamagi just became a jail guy. Um, and there it is a sheriff. It's a
Yeah.
deputy. He's a deputy. And he's one of the
in
guys.
Vegas. Is he in Vegas?
No, he's
No,
here. Still in
here.
San Luis Obispo. Yeah, he's still here.
And
Okay.
because the sheriff of our county is one of my black belts.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
pretty much up.
badass. So he better
Yeah.
be making sergeant soon. That's all that means to
Mhm.
me.
Well,
He better be getting that promotion.
we have like 8 guys
I
right
told well
now
I
that are
since
deputies.
yeah, since I started coaching, three of them, you know, they're all
You got
Nice.
Marvin, you got
Isaiah,
Eddie.
Marvin, and nice guy Eddie, and those guys were all under technically when I started coaching.
Think about that.
One more, they
Anytime,
give us a hat. Like I said, one more, we get a free hat.
dude, think about that. Every single time those guys get in a physical altercation, it's going to be done systematically, and it's going to be
Yeah.
done safely for everybody.
All winning
involved.
records. Yeah, they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Nice guy Eddie still Isaiah still trains at John's gym, but Eddie, he's like my guy. He's just here.
Joey, what's the odds of nice guy Eddie being Italian? That's such an Italian nickname.
Sounds like a bookie.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all winning records.
Gamagi, John.
Let me know if you need. Just shoot me a message. It's easy to get a hold of Gan.
But it's the same process every single time. Tons of research, little questions that people haven't been asked.
I don't know if he's on social media, but I think his wife is. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty. I said,
I'm not calling his wife.
I'm not doing that.
Well, I can actually. The guy that owns the gym with me is still good. We're all still good friends with him. I could have my guy shoot him a text.
Dude,
you guys let me know.
That would be awesome.
I tell you, a pit reunion.
Yeah.
Can you imagine doing a pit reunion? Just like
We should do it in the Sagebrush Cantina.
We used to always every year we'd go down there. Yeah.
That should be
We did
recorded.
that one.
Everybody
Yeah.
should be mic'd up. Everybody.
No.
You know what? You know what happened? Honestly, the last time we had one was the sheriff. I used to work at the Sagebrush Cantina, and it's in Calabasas, California. And I was a bouncer there. Got into a shit ton of fights there, and it's in a beautiful neighborhood. It's Calabasas. It's
Yeah.
like that's where the Kardashians live. It's
Yep.
a beautiful area, but that bar was a lot of Harley, a lot of Hell's Angels. It was a fighting bar, and the owner loved us to fight because he wanted a reputation of having a tough gym, and he was some rich kid that just
Oh.
didn't care about. So we went over there once with Chuck and I think Glover was there, but I know our sheriff Ian was there. He's like, man, you used to say this place was so rough. It doesn't look that rough, man. It doesn't look like this. Then all of a sudden, like within like 10 minutes of sitting down, a huge fight broke out, and a bottle came and just broke on our table. So
Somebody threw a bottle.
somebody, yeah. So the sheriff, our guy, he jumps in and he like gets this guy and holds this guy, and then the other cops came, and so he realized that. But it's a great place. It's just a lot of action there.
Good.
Yeah, so
Good.
that's where we're gonna have it. That's where we're gonna
That's
have
good. Yeah, you guys should mic that up. You should guys honestly, you guys there's just so much beautiful history there. I'd hate for it to be forgotten. So
Amen.
gentlemen, John, always a pleasure. Antonio, man, thank you, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you guys
this.
for having me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take
Thanks,
care.
guys. That was
There we
fun.
go.
That was good.
Yeah,
Hackleman is a gold mine. If he can keep getting these guys for us.
I don't like asking him. I like getting the guys and go, hey, John, do you want to do it? Because it's like, I'm going to use that favor for Teixeira.
By the way, I never knew Horwich trained with the pit. The fact that just off the information, who was the crazy guy?
The multiverse.
Horwich?
The multiverse.
No, you know what Horwich was? He was a pioneer for Asperger's jiu-jitsu, because now it's everybody. Mikey Mesamucci, they all seem a little off and they're just dominating. He was just ahead of the curve.
So I first met Matt Horwich at an IFL event. I did a couple radio things for them.
Yeah.
Not worth mentioning. I was at maybe 7 or 8 IFL events. And he'd be like ravenously like reading the Bible. Like reading the Bible, like with his nose dug into it. And I'm like, this is his gimmick. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he'd start quoting scripture. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. He's kind of kidding.
Yeah.
And then do you believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And I'd be like, oh, this guy's legit.
Yeah.
This guy's like an actual crazy person. And because there was also a smell to him.
Yeah. That's what everybody says. Yeah.
There is a little bit of a funk. Like people always talk about Matt Horwich. I think maybe that's why they got along so well.
Yeah.
Because they just
try with him.
Yeah, just didn't bother. Yeah, we're on the same team. And I'm like, oh man, this guy's he's a little loose. I go, man, you gotta be careful with him. Yeah. And another guy out that way too was a real cool cat that passed away, Benji Raddick.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he was an interesting guy.
Benji and I met at the reality shoot fighting event down in Belleville, Illinois, where the promoter, was, I think, liquidated is the term that they use for YouTube now. Randy Greenman. And he was cornering a girl that fought there and couldn't have been a cooler guy. He called me a couple years later. Here's the thing. I used to have I wanted to get involved, throw money at fighters. So I had a company called Cutthroat Fight Gear, which later I also wanted to build a database to start a fight organization. And in order to do that, you had to have contacts.
Right.
And it was just let me just shake hands with all the clubs, give them free t-shirts, and then get my organization going. Our first Cutthroat event was in 2001. So way back then.
Yeah.
So I gave Benji's just like, dude, I had like that Mike Tyson towel. I
Yeah.
had a Mike Tyson towel, except I had a hood on it. So it was a
Oh.
Tyson towel with a hood with this friggin' awesome logo on it. And he's just like, I'm gonna wear that walk into the ring on TV for you. And I'm like, come on, dude. And
Yeah.
it was right around the time like kind of fell out of grace with everybody because he had a dispute with a girlfriend and got knocked out by the boyfriend or the ex-boyfriend of the girl he was dating.
Right.
And it was like huge news. He kind of disappeared for a while. And then 2 years later, he calls me up. Hey, dude, do you remember? Now I haven't talked to him.
Yeah.
Do you remember that promise I made you? And it was awkward for me. And I'm like, yeah, I do. He's like, watch this Saturday. And he wore it out to an IFL event.
Oh, nice.
It was like 2 years later. Like,
that's crazy.
Dude, it was like a fucking $20 t-shirt type thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
remembers?
You weren't gonna hold it against him if he didn't make good on that.
He was a cool cat, man. He was a cool dude. And that kind of told me everything I needed to know about Benji Radek.
Yeah.
Like people want to dump on him or something like that. Like I was always
Didn't he
quick to
stop an
defend
armed
him.
robbery at one point?
He did. He also had like an illegal cadaver knee put in him that got like infected, and the doctor was arrested because he was going to like his brother owned a morgue and was taking parts from the morgue. And
so he got a discount. He got a discount knee.
Dude. Yeah.
That is creepy shit.
So like anything with Benji Reddick, I've obviously never told that story on here and privately, maybe just once or twice. But anything with Benji Reddick, it touched me. It was always like, no, man, like because I'm that guy. Like I get haunted for 2 years. Like I don't want to ask for a review, a like, or a share. I don't.
Which is why I'm here, and I don't have such rules. So goddamn it, give us a like, a share, a subscribe.
We just gave you 2 hours entertainment.
That's right.
We got less than 100 reviews on Apple. Okay, only on Apple. In 3 days, only on Apple, we get 350 downloads. So that means there's 350 different people within 3 days, which, dude, believe only on Apple, phenomenal. That's actually phenomenal.
Which means we got over 250 people that don't have the common courtesy to just leave a review that we'll read. Say whatever you want.
Dude, right.
Make fun of my tan. We'll read it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of material to work with.
That's right.
Here.
A lot of material here.
There's a lot of material here. But no, it's just like I feel like what I gotta ask for that.
Yeah.
And
it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
He's the same way.
Yeah.
Was the same way.
Yeah.
So anyway, like, share, subscribe. Next episode, next 2 drops, we're gonna have a big announcement. I think I got a verbal on it today. I got a verbal.
Yeah.
Don't hang up. I'll tell you what it is, Joey.
Okay.
But I got a verbal on it. Looks like it's a green light. Give me 2 weeks. You'll hear it here first. All right.